This post itself is kind of a meme, but it is part of the biggest problem I think that new players generally have in CS. And the question is, how do I react fast enough? I always play on good ping and my monitor has a high refresh rate. I always die before I can identify or locate any threats. It feels like my brain has input lag. This is a pretty popular thread on Reddit and there's some pretty reasonable responses. The first guy said, you should probably first determine if your brain actually has any input lag. That's a good first step, but the answer is never this problem. This guy goes, okay, what's your result on human benchmark? Now, if I go on there right now, my reactions are relatively quick, but nothing impressive. He says he got 425 milliseconds as his reaction time, to which everyone says that is ridiculously slow. And he says, okay, I tried it on my PC now. I have 241. So basically he tried this first on his phone, which means his brain might have some input lag, but in a different way. Okay, so his reaction times are 241 milliseconds, which is slow, but it's not that crazy. In fact, you think pros have insanely fast reaction times. Typically, on average, there was a test done a while back, and they don't really have that amazing reaction times. You know, some of them have very fast reaction times. Some of them are at 200 or even slightly below, because it's the angles you're playing and the way you're playing that really matters. Because if you look at how this guy is playing, he says, most rounds for me are literally just, okay, I'm at B ramp with my Negev, got a Molotov down trophy, now let's just watch this angle, oh, I'm dead. He doesn't use the AK, he just uses a Negev and then holds mouse 1 after he gets the first kill. I think a lot of people have this problem in a slightly more reasonable way, but what he's saying he does, he comes here, holds trophy room, he probably sits right here is my guess, which is why he gets absolutely destroyed. But this doesn't even seem like the craziest play of all time. You're very accurate at this range with a Negev. You really should be killing people pretty effectively with a Negev at this range. Then he says he tries to wallbang them, which, by the way, you can't wallbang this angle. So what he's doing is he's probably starting to shoot, someone unpeaks, and then he starts shooting at the wall thinking you can wallbang the door, which you can't. You can't wallbang that angle. And you can't wallbang this one either. I think you can do it with an op. You have to be like at a very tight angle. So this play is just complete nonsense, but it's so funny because when you look at his comment history, he has another thread from the same day. Is it normal to only get 5 or 6 kills per match? And he's got this post from 8 months ago, and he says, I swear headshots only really reward the crazy freaks who have absolute robo aim. For any casual player, they're just random crits caused by lucky spread. This is where I think what he's saying overlaps with what a lot of people have problems with. So other than recoil control, which I think is like a free shortcut to get a million kills if you're at low elo, the biggest problem everyone has is they just don't peek angles correctly. You need to be peeking an angle and stopping before you see an opponent. You're not waiting, running around the corner and then counter strafing and shooting. This is where you're gonna get the majority of your kills. If you play at any kind of like mid rank, your opponents are gonna be in obvious angles. They're gonna be sitting in places like this. They're gonna be sitting in places like this. They're gonna be in terrible angles that are extremely easy to clear, and all you have to do is peek them effectively and stop before you realize they're on your screen. And if you have good crosshair placement, you don't even need to move your crosshair to get these kills. You know, if you just peek out correctly, most of CS should be micro adjustments. Like a flick is something like this, where you have to flick over to the player, but a micro adjustment is what I'm gonna have to do here, where I peek out, my crosshair is near their head, but not quite on it. I just micro adjust onto their head and finish them off. Okay, it's honestly extremely easy, but if I run around the map like a lot of new players will, I'm gonna be running around like this, and then I have to flick, then I have to recoil control, and I'm stopping, I'm taking forever to shoot them. It seems like my recoil or my reactions are extremely slow, but it's not about how slow my reactions are, it's about the situations I'm putting myself in. It's extremely easy to stop this from happening. If you think your reaction times are the problem, unless you actually have like 400 plus millisecond reactions, your reaction times are not the problem, because you can make yourself look like you're pre-firing people and just kill people with much faster reactions than you if you just peek angles with good crosshair placement and shoot. realistically, you want to be moving your crosshair as little as possible and stressing your reaction time as little as possible. But people play in ways that force their reaction time to be good by playing angles that are, you don't want to be in angles where your opponents are expecting you if you can help it. So for example, if you're rifling long A, you don't want to be playing this angle, because the T's are just going to peek out expecting this, completely ready for it. They're going to have a pre-aim on you, and at best, you're in a reaction time battle, because they're going to peek out on you looking at you, and even if you do throw off their crosshair placement and they don't flash you, you're basically forcing a reaction time battle where they're peeking into you, which means you have to flick to them where they only have to micro adjust onto you, right? But if you play an angle like, let's say, Pit, well, now you have an advantage. It's a lot harder for them to kill you. It's still a little bit of the same thing. If you really have problems with reaction times and tracking people, you do something like this, where you stay in Pit, you're crouched, uncrouch, wait, uncrouch, crouch, wait, uncrouch. Or a great one is on A, where you play an angle like this, maybe. You have to worry about people boosting up on that box, but an angle like this, where what you're doing is you're catching people when they're in the middle of the open. You have a T here. He has to be looking at car, at corner. He has to be looking at ramp, at the headshot angle. He has to be worried about goose. He has to be worried about elevator, 100 different angles. And that means that when you play an angle like this, they might not notice you for a little bit. They're not going to be looking directly at you. You have a huge amount of time before they react to actually kill them. Or you can be playing something like a delay repeat here as well, where you're like crouched here, very similar to what you do at long corner, where you're crouched, uncrouch, wait. And if you look at any pro, they do this all the time. It's not that their reactions are super fast. Some of them are, like Monacy, but most pros, I mean, like, look at Crims. He's like fucking probably 40. Okay, you think his reaction times are that fast? They're not, but he still has a clip very recently destroying 2 people from this angle because his crosshair is in a good spot. He micro adjusts and he shoots them immediately. Your reactions are almost never the limiting factor, even if you have slow reactions. The problem is your fucking brain, the other parts of your brain.